Welcome to Stories with Soul. I am your host, Jamie Ice, musician turned entrepreneur and co-founder of 6th Ave Homes and 6th Ave Storytelling. Over the past 10 years, I have launched multiple successful businesses and have become obsessed with all things entrepreneurship and marketing. I've been on a personal quest to unpack what it takes to make and grow a great brand. One thing that I've discovered is that stories are powerful and that storytelling has the power to set a brand apart. Join me as I dive into the stories of the heavy-hitting leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, and business owners in our community to hear their biggest wins, greatest losses, and their best business secrets. There's a story behind every great brand. Welcome to Stories with Soul. Stories with Soul is brought to you by 6th Ave Storytelling, an organic marketing company building standout brands on the foundation of story. We help small businesses grow by crafting and sharing their stories, because when small business thrives, cities and communities prosper. Stories with Soul is brought to you by the Fort Worth Business Press, your source for news and business information in and around Fort Worth. Sign up for the Business Press's twice daily newsletter or become an insider using the storytelling coupon code STORYTELLING10, all one word, to stay up to date with the people, companies, and issues that matter most to Fort Worth. Head to fortworthbusiness.com to subscribe. I am a huge fan of the Business Press. I've been a subscriber for years. It keeps me up to date with everything that is going on in Fort Worth. Love it. Go subscribe for the newsletter. You won't regret it. All right, guys, welcome to Stories with Soul. I am your host, Jamie Ice. I'm joined by my co-host,
Jimmy Williams.
And we have the lovely, the queen of design of Fort Worth, of like the nation, actually. Like, it used to be like the queen of design in Fort Worth, and now like the queen of design in America. Grace Mitchell. I'm stoked you're here. Okay, I'm gonna read a little bit of your bio.
Okay.
Put you on the spot because it's freaking cool. So you are the star of your very own TV show, a design series called One of a Kind on HGTV and Discovery. This is an interesting tidbit that I read about it. But the show made HGTV history as the first program to ever go straight to a series without a pilot. I want to hear more about that. You had a successful season 1, and you're going into season 2.
No, we did season 2.
Season 2.
Way to be informed.
My information is wrong. Season 3.
Yeah.
So that's a really big deal.
Thanks for watching, by the way.
Oh man, I'm failing at this intro. You also starred on the television series Design at Your Door with Tiebreaker with Ty Pennington, and you've appeared on the Food Network. Your work has been showcased in House Beautiful Magazine, the Los Angeles Times, Country Living Magazine, Better Homes and Garden, HGTV Magazine, Domino, Southern Living, Elle, People, the Boston Globe. Like, that's a really, really big deal. You recently launched a full home decor collection at the at-home stores, which is crazy. Like, I've been getting like things in my mail for that with like, it's your face on there. And we went in and bought like Christmas ornaments recently, and like,
thank you.
I'm like, that's my friend Grace.
Yeah.
She's in there. Anyways, it is. So we've known each other for a long time. And I'm just jazzed to have this conversation and hear what that journey has been like, because your life looks drastically different than it did 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Whenever that was.
We were talking before we got started on when was the first time we all kind of met. And Grace, you had a great story about Jamie, their first memory of Jamie, whenever you actually met, or I guess heard of him. It was the first time when he was in high school, right? And
I knew high school Jamie.
High school, yeah. I thought we met when I was like 20, 20 or 21.
So I know Jamie, high school, but you actually knew Jamie before me even.
Yeah.
And we call it the pre and post curly hair Jamie.
That's right. I knew Jamie with his old hair.
Yeah.
And I was a K-Life leader, which was a Christian group here for junior high and high school students. And I was in college at the time, so I had a group. And my group was around, of girls, was around the same age as Jamie, and who, was a little bit of a heartthrob.
Yeah, of course.
And,
such a heartthrob.
It's true. And I recall very distinctly that Jamie one summer made a bet with his buddy to not wash his hair, and it eventually fell out, and then it grew back very blonde and very curly. And, even as a college student, I retained the story because it was one of the most amazing transformations I'd ever seen.
We had a bet so you could go the longest without taking a shower or bath. And we were both lifeguards at Colonial Country Club, so we just jump in the pool every day.
In the pool, right.
And my hair started falling out because I got a fungus, apparently.
Like in clumps, big chunks falling out of your head.
Anyways, it grew back super curly. But anyways, we that is not what we're here to talk about today. But that blew my mind. I didn't realize we go back way back. But okay, so here's where I'd love to start. So when my first recollection of like meeting you, which I guess was before that, because you were my high school girlfriend's K-Life leader. But before you did design, you were an ASL teacher. You worked before with ISD.
Yeah.
You we went to church together. I was in the worship band,
right?
And you would sign the music during the services.
Yeah.
And so I have all these memories of kind of with the worship band, us being backstage and all the every Sunday and some of the events and stuff. I thought that was when we first met, but going from that background and that's what did you study that in college? Or?
Yes. So that's what I studied in college. And so I was a teacher in the Fort Worth ISD. I taught deaf high school students for a time and then deaf middle school students the longest for a few years. And then I got my master's, and then I was a language therapist for deaf and hard of hearing babies ages 0 to 3, where I would go into people's homes, and typically they had just found out that their child was deaf. So I would sort of walk them through that, the different routes you can go, whether you get a cochlear implant or you just do straight sign. And then I wanted to be an audiologist. So I started working on my doctorate when we got pregnant with our first child. And I thought that I would go back.
You went back to school?
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh.
I really love school.
So, but your life is drastically different now. To go from that to your own HGTV show.
Right. Well, it's funny because I loved a lot of different things in college. I went in as a dance major, actually.
Okay.
And
where are you from originally?
I'm from Arlington.
Okay, so you're local.
I'm local, yeah. And so I changed my major a bunch of different times. And for a time, my major was interior design. And my advisor told me that I should change my major because it was a dying field. And
Okay.
Interior design.
Yeah.
That is
and so
awesome.
he was like, people are just doing their own, like they're DIYing.
What a terrible teacher. You should change it. This is a dying field.
Yeah. So I changed it, and I took sign language as my foreign language, and I just loved it. And
why did you do that?
I'd taken Spanish all through high school, and I just thought sign language is it's very expressive, and I'm very expressive, and it was just such a beautiful language. And so I ended up finding a field that I could use my.
And so there's no like personal story of anybody that's deaf or anything. You just I like this. I thought, and you have a very like giving spirit and giving personality, and and so it made sense.
Yeah, and I really loved it. I loved my students, and I'm still in contact with some of them. One of them works at Torchy's actually, and so I'll go in there and
that's fun.
Talk with him.
Yeah.
And so that's how I ended up signing at church, because at the time we had a pretty decent sized deaf group there.
And you were bringing some students, I think. I think I remember that.
Yeah. So it was that was a neat time of my life.
So
for sure.
So dabbled in interior design a little bit in college, kind of interested. Then your professor was like, "Get out of here."
Right.
You switched it. And then, actually, can we go back a little further?
Yeah.
So Grace growing up in Arlington. Can you tell us about your family? What was growing up like?
Totally. Well, I'm one of 4. I have all brothers. I have 3 brothers. And a lot of people think that when you grow up with brothers, you're sort of the princess of the family. And I can guarantee you right now, I could tack you to the ground. And I can throw a pretty mean spiral.
And were you younger?
So I am out of the 4 of us, I'm number 2.
Okay.
So, and there's a pretty big gap between my oldest brother and I in age. And so we sort of share the only child role, or the oldest child, not only, the oldest child.
Yeah.
And then I've got 2 brothers underneath me. So I'm very close with my brothers. And I was pretty, I know that that a lot of people say this, and whenever I tell people this, they say, "Oh, Grace, I'm sure it wasn't that bad." And then I show them a picture, and they'll say, "Oh, Grace, I'm so sorry." I'm like, I know. Yeah. So it was pretty, like, elementary school was pretty rough for me. I got made fun of a lot. I was brace-faced Grace all through school.
Why'd you get made fun of?
I just was kind of a horrendous-looking child.
Like you were just ugly? Like ugly dressed?
I mean,
like,
kind of. I mean,
dirty?
No,
the dirty kid?
No, not at all. My mom was on top of all those things. But I just, like, when my teeth came in, instead of growing like down, they grew out. And so I could do all sorts of really cool tricks, but I just, I just looked kind of weird.
Like gangly, like teeth everywhere?
I'm very tall. I'm 5'10". And, so I just was really tall, really fast. And I have a lot of hair. And I wore a headgear.
Oh, man. Headgear. I remember the headgear.
Yeah. So really my life changed around my sophomore, junior year of high school. And I just sort of grew into my face, I say sometimes. Like, I kind of have a big face, and it just, when you have a tiny little body and a tiny little neck and a huge face, it just takes a while for, you just kind of balance
proportions to make sense.
So eventually I was more proportionate.
Okay.
So did that impact? I mean, you were very, as long as I've known you, bubbly, high energy, charismatic. Did some of that come from you because you had to overcompensate a little, like were you always that way? Were you always?
I mean, I think that in my right after college, or I was actually kind of still in college, but I was working full time. I had a terrible car accident. And really thought that my life was over. I was in a wheelchair, and I was told that I probably couldn't have children. And so at 22, my life drastically changed. And so I think that impacted a lot of how I am. But I've always been very like cheerful and bubbly. But I just want, I think part of it is that I felt so unseen for so long, and couldn't really like express myself like I wanted to, because when you're bullied like that, you just sort of go into your own little box. So once I had the self-confidence to sort of grow out of that, I want everybody that comes into contact with me to feel seen.
Do you feel like that like was a part of your heart in the sign language as well? Like,
definitely. Yeah. Just communicating and expressing yourself, and all those things are really important to me. And something that people don't understand about a lot of deaf people in general is that most of them, like 80% of them, their families don't know how to communicate with them. They don't know sign language, and so they'll pass notes or things, or they can make little hand motions.
It's isolating.
Yeah, but for middle school students and high school students that I also worked with, you guide them through a lot of life, because they start, especially in middle school, and I was in my early 20s when I was teaching, early mid 20s when I was teaching. And so they would ask a lot of questions, middle school
questions. Yeah.
But I knew that if I didn't explain that,
how things worked, how the world works. Yeah.
Yeah. So
no one's going to tell them.
Exactly. Like, who's going to tell them? Who's going to share this information?
Wow.
So, it's really interesting. So yeah, I want people to feel special that I see. So I'm not big on small talk. I sort of dig into people, and I like knowing who people are.
When you were you creative when you were younger?
Yes, very.
Okay.
Like my Barbie house was tricked out.
Okay, so you were decorating.
Yes.
You were designing then.
Yes, loved it. Very creative. My mom really encouraged art for all of us. So I went to art camp every summer and was always super creative. I was always making things. My family teases me, but I used to make these things. My brothers called them wads, but I would make Kleenex. Like
a Kleenex
sculptures. And I would write things on them in marker. Anyway, my older brother still has one, and I wrote, some Bible verse on it or something.
You should introduce that into your online store now.
I need you to design a house where there's sculptures, just watch
Kleenex
on a wall
sculptures.
somehow.
Yeah, but I was always making houses. I would make these incredible houses out of just scrap things I would find, and I would trade my lunch at school for craft supplies a lot of times too. Sorry, Mom. Yeah, I don't think I ever even told her that.
Yeah.
What were you? Do you remember what you were doing with that stuff?
Yeah, I would just make sew things with fabric and put things together, and
so they encouraged that in you, like they
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
This episode of Stories with Soul is brought to you by 6th Ave Storytelling. At 6th Ave Storytelling, we know that stories aren't just for bedtime, they're powerful marketing tools, and we've seen what they can do. Want to see for yourself? Download our free PDF, The Storytelling Pathway, on our website, 6avstorytelling.com. It's everything your business needs to be successful. This is what I've used to grow my businesses and hundreds of others. It's a strategy that has led to #1 albums, built large followings, and has helped generate millions of dollars in revenue, thousands of leads, and tons of traffic. I've seen client after client reach their goals, which is why I'm crazy excited to share it with you today. I'm offering this for free because it's my personal mission to support small business owners and entrepreneurs no matter where they are at on their journey. Because small businesses are the heartbeat of a city, and they really are what make it special. 6th Avenue Storytelling has helped brands across the country grow their business using these exact steps. Head to 6avstorytelling.com and download the Storytelling Pathway to get your step-by-step guide today. Stories with Soul is brought to you by Fort Worth Business Press. The Fort Worth Business Press has been instrumental for me as a business owner. They were actually the first publication to ever cover 6th Avenue homes and also 6th Avenue Storytelling, which were huge wins for our companies. I also have been following along for years. I've been a subscriber. It has allowed me to keep up to date with everything that is happening in the business community and see what other business owners are doing and just stay involved in all sort of the economic development of what is happening in Fort Worth. If you are in any way involved in business, you should go subscribe and sign up for their publication, sign up for their twice daily newsletter, and they're actually offering a storytelling discount right now if you listen to the podcast. Become an insider using the storytelling code storytelling10, all one word, lowercase, to stay up to date with the people and companies and issues that matter most. Visit fortworthbusinesspress.com to sign up today. Were you okay? This is a little bit of a loaded question because my 5-year-old is just constantly rearranging and moving things. And like Christmas right now, like she's taking ornaments and putting, like, they're like in her bed and stuff. It's like stresses me out. Her room stresses me out because there's just stuff everywhere. I'm looking for maybe affirmation. I'm like, maybe she's going to be an interior designer because she's.
Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely shows your creative spirit. People ask me about my room a lot. I never redesigned my room. Like my mom, once it was done, it was done.
Okay.
And so I didn't really change.
So it's more like crafting and art and stuff like that.
Right. I never really put things on my walls. It just wasn't, I don't know, it just wasn't a thing.
Okay. Did you care about vibe at all? Like when you got to college and stuff, like decorating your dorm room, did you care about?
Yeah, that was really fun. I cared about that. I remember, and now it would be super hip, but I was an RA in school. And so I had vaulted. I built my bed up so it vaulted, and then I hung a hanging chair that I got at the old McCart thrift store underneath it. And now I would be so hip, but back then it was kind of weird, but I loved it. And I put Christmas lights underneath it in my dorm room.
Okay.
Yeah.
So went to college though, and wound up finishing doing ASL, American Sign Language, and then went and taught.
Yep.
And then I guess you left that. So at what point did you start to? Design was like a side hustle in the beginning, like just
we left off with having first child.
Yeah, first child. Okay.
So
you were getting
I
your
thought that I
doctors.
would take I thought I would take a semester off and then figure it out from there. And then we ended up having 4 kids in less than 4 years. So
How does that
Which
work?
does the math add up on this?
Are there
it really
twins?
does.
There's no twins, right?
No twins.
Are we sure? Yeah.
They're all, a year or a little over apart.
And was that
Yeah.
on purpose?
No.
Okay.
We planned our
That's
fourth
intense.
Yeah.
child.
You plan the fourth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you said might as well, at this point.
Well, I will tell you, we didn't have a hard time getting pregnant, but I had several miscarriages and then
Okay.
lost a baby boy at about 4.5 months.
Wow,
So,
yeah.
we just when I had signed on to do my doctorate, I just thought, okay, maybe we're not going to have children and I need to think about something else. So I will throw myself into a project when I need to redirect my brain. And so for me, that was getting my doctorate. And then we got pregnant with Ellis, very surprisingly.
And that's kind of like a miracle baby. You're like, this is a big deal.
Well, we just, we had been told since I had, lost a baby recently to just wait for a while. And so we were waiting to reassess and just trying not to think about it for a while. And then we surprisingly were pregnant with Ellis. And then with number 2 and number 3, I didn't know that I was pregnant until I was about 4 months along.
What?
Just because, my husband's a doctor and he was in residency. So he works 80 to 100 hour weeks and he was just gone a lot. And I had these babies and, when you're not planning to be pregnant and then you get pregnant, so it just happened. But I will say I have loved it. I think it's physically a little harder on the front end, but they are best buddies and just a little pack of kids and they love each other. It's awesome.
And I read that y'all, well, I know you don't now, but even before, we're going to get into the Airstream thing here in a second. But y'all never owned a TV, right?
No. Yeah. I mean, we haven't had a TV in a long time.
Uh-huh.
But so
you had these 4 little kids.
yeah.
And
It's I think it's a great, when you see a lot of kids, especially when you're a teacher. And I even taught deaf preschool when I was in college for Fort Worth ISD. And or you see families out and their kids are looking at an iPad. And so I just didn't want to do that.
so
We
they
talk to
entertain each other. Yeah.
Yes.
That's so cool.
But when you have 4 kids, 3 and under, it's a pretty wild
Yeah.
ride. But I've always felt so thankful that I got to have kids and to experience. I wanted a big family and we have a lot of activity.
Yeah, because you're coming from, getting a car wreck to maybe not having kids to having, complications is even not even a good word to use. Just really a lot of, tough things to
Right.
then having 4 blessings, these huge miracle blessings. And then, so it's kind of like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it's, I feel and sense a great, gratefulness coming from you just completely. So
I feel so grateful. I really do. And just even, getting to take in, sounds silly, but there's not a time that I don't go to a place like Round Top. I love Round Top or getting to go to a museum that I'm just thinking, thank you, God, that I can see. Thank you that I can walk. Thank you. I just say those kinds of things a lot.
How long were you were in a wheelchair?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So it took me almost a year to fully rehab, and I'm a half inch shorter on one side now.
way.
So, you sort of learn to walk and correct that. And I wore a lift in my shoe for a while to help with that.
So that was when you were 22.
Uh-huh.
Man.
Yeah. I couldn't open my mouth for 6 months. So I had to drink all my food through a straw.
Holy
I
cow.
feel like I remember this.
Yeah.
I don't know that I
do
knew
remember.
you well at that point. I think we were doing the worship band stuff a couple years later.
Yeah, so I moved to Missouri for a while.
Okay.
And then when I moved back, that's when I was doing all the sign language. So I
Okay.
just moved back to Fort Worth.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that, to have something like that happen to you at such a pivotal time in your life where you're out of college and you're going to start this new life. I hadn't graduated quite yet, but I was already working full time and finishing up a few hours. And it just, everything just changed.
Yeah.
Were there any big takeaways or lessons or things that you personally learned from that, or it changed my perspective on
Well, I mean, outside of just growing up really fast, in a way. I mean, I had to take care of, and of course, I had a lot of people who loved on me, but you really have to decide. And I remember a girl coming in, a mentor to me at the time had come into the hospital because I was at JPS for months and months, and she had come in and she had said, "Okay, it's okay to be sad, but you have to decide if you're going to like live or not." And so that made such an impact on me.
Wow.
And, so just fighting through all of those physical obstacles really just created sort of a new fire in me to go and keep going.
Yeah. And I guess, again, we met each other before that, but like I've always, like I said earlier, you've always just had this energy and spark and gratitude and just exuberance for life. And I would assume some of that is from coming out of that.
Yeah. I mean, there's really not a day that goes by that I don't thank God that I can use my legs, walk around and get to, just be moving.
That's incredible. So start having kids. I'm assuming you stopped teaching and you put the doctorate on hold. You stopped. Did you stop working?
So I taught baby sign language classes. I taught at a deaf school for a little bit because I could bring the kids with me. I ran a vintage furniture company for a while. So I definitely had some side hustles, but I had just had my fourth baby. So our kids were 3, 2, 1, and under 1. And for Christmas, Kent gave me a book. And he, because I loved working on our house and we lived in this little old house and I just loved it.
And so was that your first sort of intro into doing design? Was y'all bought an old house?
Right.
And Kent was like, go make it awesome.
Well, he just had seen just my natural spark for that. And so he had given me a notebook and he said, how did he word it? He's so poetic. He wrote something like, you need to show other people your storied style. And that's where storied style.
Oh, he's the author of that.
Yeah.
Go Kent.
I know. And so he just said, I want you to put pictures in there that inspire you or like write things down. And so from there I started a blog, which I remember hearing about the word blog in graduate school because it was an extra credit. Like you could get extra credit if you started a blog.
Okay.
And I remember distinctly verbatim saying to my professor, "What is a blog?" And she said, "Oh, it's where you write down your thoughts about things or what you're doing." And I said out loud, "Why would I ever do that?"
Who am I that someone would care to read
exactly.
this? Yeah.
Like, why would I? Anyway, so funny, fast forward. And I started a design blog back when there just weren't a ton of blogs. And that was sort of my,
What were you doing before you even started? Were you doing cool stuff? I mean,
I was doing stuff to our house. And so I just started writing about our house.
And did people think it was cool?
Yeah. So it grew really fast.
But people walking in your house, like...
Yes. So I had a lot of comments like that, or people asking me to help them.
So you were doing it. You were like good at like... And I feel like part of your design style is you take a lot of chances and risks, and it's fun.
Yeah.
And so you were doing that on your own house.
Right.
And then he said you should write some of this down, so you started the blog.
Right. So I started the blog, and then it just did really well. And I started, going to conferences and, trying to get into this design world.
So it was a point where like you switched and you said, okay, I'm good at this. I want to pursue this on a bigger level.
Right. And I'd always loved design, and I wanted to do, everything that I do, I want to do really, really well. I'm very driven, motivated person. And so I started going to these conferences and eventually got a mentor, which is a funny story because I was meeting with this mentor and I really respected her, and I still really respect her. But she told me, she said, if you're going to be a designer, you have to stop making your design so personal. You just got to roll through people and just keep it going. And I felt so discouraged because I thought, well, that's not really what I want to do. Like, I don't want to do this just to do it. I don't do things just to do them. For me to want to do something, it needs to have meaning. And that goes from when I was a teacher. Like I really felt like I was impacting those people. And when I'm designing, I really feel like I'm impacting these people and putting something.
It wasn't about the money. It wasn't.
No.
Yeah.
Like putting something beautiful into the world, or like, making sure that these people feel comfortable in their home and they feel like
that's personal to them.
Exactly.
That they'll enjoy. And then that brings you the joy of that's why you're doing it. That's your
right.
why. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so really quick, just to back up, how did you know, like whenever you said it was working, like, it's like I started blogging and it started working. Like, what does that mean? Like,
well,
where you just got so much like response from it,
right.
comments? Like
the world is so different now. I mean, social media wasn't really a thing, really.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of, back then to get advertisers on your blog, you had to have a certain number of views per month. And so, I knew if I was at 300,000 views a month, I could get this much in advertisers. So
you were getting 300,000 views a month.
I don't remember. Yeah, I mean, it was something
Grace,
like that.
That's crazy.
And this is,
the way we're
now
talking,
the world is way more saturated. Like you can't, it's hard. Really
I know,
hard
but that's what I'm saying. Now that's like millions, that's equivalent to millions.
But this all sounds like, yeah, I just kind of did this thing. I just...
That's what I want to know. How many blogs did you write? Like how many?
Well, I wrote a post every day. So what I would do is I would take care of the kids all day.
Okay.
I would put them down. When Kent would go to bed, I would drink 1 or 2 cups of coffee.
At night, you're drinking cups of coffee?
Yes. And I would write.
Okay.
I had 4 tiny kids. I couldn't do this during the day. So I would write.
Staying up all night.
Yeah. I would set it to post at like 5 a.m. So it hit 6 a.m. Eastern time. And then I would just sleep for a few hours. And that's really what I did for years.
You only slept for a couple hours?
A few hours. Yeah.
Because you are writing, and that's what I feel like anytime people like tell their story, there is like this time, we call it the grind time.
The grind period.
Yeah, grind period, where it's like, yeah, and then this happened, and it kind of like, I kind of made it, and then all this stuff happened, and it was all great.
Yeah.
But people don't realize the amount of work and the effort it took you. I mean, so you're writing a blog post every single day. How
5 days a week.
5 days a week. Yeah, 5 days. That's
You're treating it like a job. I mean, that's
I was
very
serious about it.
And how many years did you do that?
I did that for about 3 years.
Yes. Okay. That is a ton of work.
And you're working on your house. So is most of the blog about your...
Most of it was about the house at that time.
Okay.
It's funny that you say that, Jimmy, because my husband all the time will say, you sort of leave out that you've really worked at this. And also, I didn't have a design background. I mean, I had a year of school. And so I really just educated myself. I'm a big researcher. I have a science background with my degree. And so I'm very, as much of a creative as I am, I'm also very scientific. So I made like a design course for myself to teach myself,
oh my gosh,
all the elements of design, from scale and color and pattern and how all these things work together and all of these things. I sort of created a school for myself and educated myself on
like
how this should work.
Books or Google or...
Books.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So you went and bought a bunch of books.
Yes.
So there was a point in your head where you're like, I'm into design. I'm like going
Loving
hard.
it.
I'm going hard on it.
And I loved it.
I'm buying a bunch of books.
Right.
And
yes. So, and that was going pretty well. But as the world changed, this world changes so fast. Yeah. And then there was a lot of blogs. So it just got harder to be competitive. And frankly, I was real tired. And I remember the turning point was I still had the vintage furniture business. But at that time, I had all of my items in a store in Dallas. And so Kent and I, for our date night once a week, would drive my minivan load full of vintage furniture to Dallas. Well, there's one week that he couldn't do it. And so I drove it, and I also had a huge painting. This sounds so crazy, but I had a huge painting strapped to the top of the minivan, and I had to hold it with one arm
to Dallas.
And I took Rosedale the whole way. If you take Rosedale the whole way, you can basically hit the design district. It's crazy. Anyway, so I did that.
Just got the hand up.
But I remember driving, and even though my eyes were open, I felt like I was asleep. Wow. It was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced, and it was scary. And I just thought, okay, I can't,
I'm tired.
I'm tired
Yeah.
and I can't, I had gotten to the point where I was doing okay at family. I was doing okay at writing. I was doing okay at a lot of things, but excellent in nothing.
Yeah.
And so that was a turning point in my life. So I decided to stop writing 5 days a week. And to an extent, I just thought, and I remember the head of the advertising company that I was with at the time said, "Why are you doing this? You're giving up everything. Like, this is going to be over."
So you were making money on the blog?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you've built up this
Built it up.
following now for 3 years. People are trusted, and you have this way of making money. And
Right.
so you're saying, I'm done.
Yeah. Or at the time I was like, well, I'm going to write once or twice a week. But it also, I sort of mourned it too, because I thought, am I doing the wrong thing? But also at the time I knew that I was doing the right thing for my family. And so I stopped doing it and then slowly just kind of tapered off. But during that time, because I had sponsors also. So I'm working with Pottery Barn, I'm working with West Elm, I'm working with, all of these brands. And I eventually was styling shoots for them and producing things. And so it just really sort of gave me this whole insight into this other world.
That's cool.
And I really loved that world.
Styling
and producing and coming up with a concept for a design or space.
Were you designing for people's houses yet, or
Not really.
Okay, so just
and so I
just the
mostly was
blog.
doing magazines and brands.
Okay.
And so I really sort of turned my focus to that. And then I also wrote for Domino because Domino magazine had come back, which was so exciting to everyone who loved old Domino. And so I wrote for them for a couple of years and then was doing brand and magazine.
Did you have a manager or something? I mean,
No.
So all these connections were from your blog. Like you had
Yes.
made it, they're reaching out to you and saying, hey, will you sponsor us or put this right about this, whatever, piece of furniture or whatever, I guess. Furniture
Right.
would
And
be.
then just like networking, when I would go to these conferences, it was a big deal. Typically I had at least one child with me because I was nursing or whatever. But when I would go, I would make it my goal to meet everyone there. And so I, would just meet everyone and talk with them and
you put yourself out there.
put myself out there. And, I just was trying to glean as much information as I could about how to do this because I'm just a mom in Fort Worth with a minivan and a computer.
Yeah.
And so
That's incredible,
I
though.
made a lot of
So,
connections there.
Domino Magazine asked you to write for them, and Pottery Barn and West Elm are like come style.
So I'm doing things for them.
Were you feeling pretty excited? Were you like, I'm good. This is
It's funny.
300,000 people are checking this website
Or
out.
more.
It was something that's funny looking back is my husband, there were times where our house at times would be a mess, but I would have this one room that was perfect because I had
Styled.
photographed it
Yeah.
for the website, but I had thrown all the junk, in some other space. And, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to live that way. And so Kent would say, okay, what's your goal with this? And what do you want to do? What do you want to do with this? And I never wanted to set goals because I had a lot of things like, oh, this would be cool. And this would be cool. And this would be cool. But I just thought my main priority is my family. And so if I can do these things and have a happy family, I'm worried if I put too much, because I am so driven, if I put too much focus on these goals, then I might miss what is most important to me. So I just don't want these benchmarks because then if I fail, don't meet them because I'm taking care of these babies, I don't want to be sad about that. I want to keep the joy in that I'm taking care of my family and I'm also doing this other cool thing over here. So it's funny looking back and you see all these progressions because you're right. I wasn't hanging out by the pool. I was busting it and raising a family. So it was
You were like
was cool
super
to
driven,
see.
doing a bunch of stuff, but also like tapering it a little bit.
yes, because I just thought people always say like, oh, your kids grow up so fast. And when your kids are little, you hear that, but you don't really,
Yeah.
I guess, you don't see it as much until, now my kids are 10, 11, 12, and 13.
Yes.
And it's like, whoa, I've got 5 years left with my oldest, with him at home. And so I feel like I've always been good about really taking advantage of the time. Like, this is such a short time in my life. this is not forever. And I just want to, you know, be in every second. And so, yeah, all these cool things are happening, but I didn't really, I guess in the time you didn't really see the progression. It was like, oh, I'm working really hard and this cool thing happened.
Yeah. There's a genuineness and authenticity to that where you were not, it was never about the fame or this big thing. It was like you just loved it and liked it. So you wanted to learn about it and you were good about it and you were enjoying it. You worked your butt off. You worked hard.
Yeah, I think that is important to like for people to hear is like you're not just a mom that's just like sitting at home and kind of like blogging for fun. And it's like, because there are people that are like, well, you just blog for fun and you got lucky. Well, that's not true. It's like you actually were up at night drinking coffee. You're working till 2 or 3 in the morning, getting a couple hours of sleep, and then like busting your butt. But also, you didn't sacrifice time with your kids. You didn't sacrifice this because that was your ultimate goal. Like, if I can do this, I can do whatever. I can do whatever over here on the work side. But as long as I'm hitting my goals that I actually do care about with my family, and that's something that. So, I mean, in that sense, you are accomplishing your goals. That's
pretty
it.
incredible. I mean, that's cool. And one of the things we were talking about just before this conversation was you were never like an attention grabber. Look at me, focus on me. I want to be famous. I want like you never ever like.
You know, a lot of people that are like, they're going to be famous one day, or if they made it like on TV or a commercial, or you're like, well, that makes sense. But like when it's like Grace has a TV show, and it's like, wait, hold on. Grace?
I know.
Like, that's not,
it's weird even.
It's not like, that's not something that you would be like, I'd be like, oh yeah, no, Grace, she's going to be famous one day.
But there's this cool thing of really hard work, but also humility and putting family first. And it's cool. I think that's, I didn't really know that you were doing all that and did all that, but that's, the heart behind it, I think, is really neat. Can you? So we kind of glazed over this. You mentioned a vintage furniture company or store. What is that? What does it even mean?
I ran that with a friend of mine. So it was awesome for the really young years, like the quadruple stroller years.
The quad stroller.
You had a quad stroller?
100% house wants to leave my house.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, dude.
So
it was awesome. We called it Mitchell Stadium because there was 2 kids on top that faced me and 2 on bottom. So it was like a double decker.
Oh, man. Did you have to specially order that? Like,
yes.
Oh my gosh. That is hysterical.
And at the time, you know, I mean, Kent was a resident and I'm running a vintage furniture business, you know, and so we saved up my whole pregnancy to buy the stroller. We had to ship it from Australia.
Wow.
And at the time, it was like, I mean, to us, it was like $1 million. We thought, but it is seriously how I left my house for probably 2 years.
And so you got this quad stroller. And you're going like garage sales and
estate sales, you know, flea markets, all the places with the quadruple stroller, buying up stuff. And then I would load it into the minivan.
Did you have a booth at the antique mall?
I did it for a little bit.
Okay. I think I remember this like orange Chesterfield couch.
Yes.
At some point.
Right. For sure.
Yeah.
Or in like Craigslist, you know, I had searches on Craigslist at the time. And so I would just post it on Facebook.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would sell and have the money in my PayPal account before I even got home. So it was a great little side hustle for a mom.
So like how much do you make off of this? Like, that's what I want. Like, I mean, I don't know if you're allowed to say that.
That's
right?
fine. You mean like a year when I was doing it?
Like how much do you make off of that?
Yeah, I've made like $35K a year doing that.
Yeah, but that's not a lot to live off of, especially when your husband's in residency.
But at the time, it was more than my husband made.
I know, that's what I was going to say. So it's like, how are you guys, like, you are like the breadwinner right now at this moment because you're making this.
He's in residency.
Yeah, and like that's something that, you know, we kind of glossed over as well. It's like you're hustling on this furniture and then you're blogging at night to make, I don't know, another 35,000. Is that, do you make that on blogs? I
don't even remember now what I make. It wasn't that much.
Okay, yeah.
And you're living in construction, which is also stressful.
Yes, we've always lived in construction. That
is grinding it. Like that is straight grinding it.
But you know, going back to when we were having miscarriages. And even when we lost our little boy at 4.5 months, that was so unexpected because, when you're having miscarriages and it's typically, it'd be like 10, 11, 12 weeks for us. But, we had made it through the first trimester.
You're
so
celebrating.
we just thought, oh my gosh, we're golden. And so when we went, and I was just having a routine sonogram and the baby wasn't moving, and it was just devastating. And I just couldn't even believe it. So I went home because they were like, you're going to have to deliver. And I went home and, I just was praying for a miracle. And I was like, no, please, let me do more sonograms just to see. And so we were just praying, and I threw myself into house projects. I mean, I painted the hallway, I put up new trim, I did all these things. And so that's just sort of how I grieved at that time, was by doing house projects. And so that was probably the first flicker.
There's some therapeutic to do.
Yeah, there's some real passion here.
All right, guys, we're interrupting your podcast experience once again.
I know. I'm sorry.
But we are giving you something for free.
So it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
We recently released a document called The Storytelling Pathway on our website. It is our playbook for success, for growing brands, for marketing. That's literally everything that we do at Sixth Avenue Storytelling, and we want to share it with the world. We want to give it to you.
So in addition to these nuggets that you're learning on this podcast, you can get our free playbook, free manual for how you grow your business from
Sixth Avenue Storytelling. Yeah, it's the storytelling, and it's really, really good.
Where do you find it?
It's sixthavenuestorytelling.com.
There you go.
And it's good. Go get it. Go download it. I promise it's going to help your business.
Man.
Wow. Thank you for being honest and sharing about that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that go through that, and it hurts and it's hard.
It is hard. Yeah. And, even at the time, I don't think that I shared about it probably like I should have. But, now when I hear women tell those stories, I can identify, just that grief. It's such a difficult thing, but man, it makes your baby so much sweeter.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that was, and one of your outlets was going and working on the house.
Right.
What's your Enneagram? Can I ask what that is?
What do you think it is?
I would assume 3. Are you a 3 or a 7?
That's what people always guess. Also,
what if it's I feel like it's a 8-9 or 9-8.
Really?
I don't know.
You think I could be a challenger?
I don't know. I'm just randomly throwing it out there.
Or no,
or it's a 2.
Helper. It might be a helper.
Okay, so the first 2 times I took the Enneagram test, I tied exactly with a 2, a 3, and a 7.
Okay.
And so then I had to read the book, but I'm a 3.
A 3. Okay. Hence the driven, the competitive, and then the 2, the helper.
Yeah. But, depending on how into the Enneagram you are, there's 3 subtypes of each type. And one of them is an off-brand. So I'm the off-brand 3. The
off-brand.
I'm not really competitive.
But you're driven.
Necessarily with other people as much as I am with myself.
Okay.
Even, I compete with myself.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And so is rest for you doing do you don't sit and chill, I'm assuming. This
has been I've worked on myself this year.
Of resting?
Yes.
Okay.
I am a workhorse, and I can just keep going. And, typically, as I have matured and gotten older, and then just experienced more life, I realized that is not good. It's good to be a hard worker, but there's a line there, and I'm teaching myself where that line is.
What have you implemented any things or habits?
Yes, this is actually one of them.
Tea?
Yes.
Tea.
Because, and of course I bought this. This doesn't count necessarily. But I am a big cold coffee drinker. And on the show, even people will say, what is that in your glass all the time? And it's cold coffee. People will say oh, is that whiskey? Or no, that's for later. But
yeah.
But I'm a big coffee drinker, and I would just drink coffee all the time.
You said you're drinking coffee at night after the kids go to bed.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And so, it's a good, and then, doing television for a few years, the schedule is pretty pretty brutal, especially, when you're a show like us where the people that you see on TV really do it in real life. I'm not just, I'm not pretending for television. So, I hardly slept for years, and that's not good for you. I don't. And even like the years that I stayed up really late, like, yes, I was working hard. And I think there are times in your life you have to do that. But I think as like a lifestyle, that's really not a good choice.
Yeah.
And so I've really, in just this summer, just some circumstances in our lives just sort of came to a head. And I just thought, I have to stop for a little bit. And so I started drinking tea.
Instead of coffee.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I love some coffee every once in a while.
But less caffeine in your life.
Yes. And no, there's nothing wrong with caffeine. Caffeine is actually, coffee's really good for you and all the things. But I found for me, just the process of making tea and like making myself slow down and making myself, rest.
Just taking it slower, just a little bit slower pace
Yes.
for at least a moment. Yeah.
Right. And there were definitely things that led up to sort of, I call it like my breakdown this summer, but I had gone to a church and the pastor preached on rest, and I not even cried, I cried. No, I sobbed.
Oh, you big cried.
The entire service. And I thought, okay. Kent, my husband, is so sweet and wonderful. After service, he was like, so that really impacted you. And I was so embarrassed, but I just could not stop. It was, television, there are so many things that I really love about it. And it's such I realize that this is like the dream for a lot of people, and they work towards this goal. I never imagined that I would have a television show, and it all happened very fast. So I realized and I'm very thankful for the opportunity to do it. And there are lots of things I love, like I said, but it's sort of a ball that's really hard to stop rolling. The schedule and the production schedule is really tight, and you can't mess around. It's very fast.
Yeah.
So
you slowed down this summer a little bit is what you're saying.
Yes. I stopped.
Good for you.
Almost everything. And just
really?
said, yeah.
You had like a breaking point.
And so do you decide, whenever you say stopped everything, what do you mean by that?
I shut my office down.
Okay.
I sent emails and I said, and it was a very difficult thing to do because I can't believe I'm saying this out loud.
Yeah.
It was very difficult to put out there, but I just said, hey, I'm struggling and I need to take some time off. And so
Wow.
That's what I did.
And I'm assuming was supportive of that.
Very.
Yeah.
Because he just said, listen, you get one life. And of course I know these things, but it just took it took some we've lost some beloved people to us this year, and that's been really hard. I had a medical issue that, I'm not a normal person on the inside from my accident, and just dealing with some of that and getting through those things, and then just sort of dealing with some other issues, and just had to take a break.
Man, that is something that I feel like, one, that's got to be the hardest thing is a 3, it's because now you're going the exact, your weak spot, right? Or the hardest thing to do. But the vulnerability to kind of share, just even right now, that's huge, just to even be able to share that. Most people they'll lie about it. Right? They'll lie, or they'll sugarcoat it, or oh, I'm too busy, I'm going to take away, but what you're doing is which is kind of the core of who you are, is a little bit of vulnerability, a little humility, authenticity, and then doing what's right, doing the right thing, even whenever it might make others, upset or whatever, but you're doing the right thing for yourself and for your family.
Right.
So that's pretty neat.
Well, it's not easy, and thankfully I had a supportive spouse, and so for about in the very beginning, and for about 3 weeks I just sat in bed.
No way. You were like mega
yeah.
Okay.
It had gotten to, when you are working like that, it can really mess with you.
Oh yeah.
And I just thought, this is, I'm going into territory that is not where I should be. And so
your brain feels like it's juggling so many things.
And just not, I want to be so careful with what I have and really be a good steward of what I've been given. And I just knew that I was not mentally in a place where I should be, and I needed help and I needed rest.
So, lesson here to me is it's okay to not be okay, right? Like you're saying, like, I was not in a good spot, and that's okay.
Right.
And then I want to do something about it, and that means not work.
Right.
That's an okay solution sometimes.
And there's a reason.
Go ahead. Well, I was just saying, like, I just feel like for CEOs, and I mean, you are your own boss, right, of your company, and for a CEO to say, "I'm going to stop, I'm going to pause, I'm going to take a break," and I don't know how long. Like sometimes that's okay. Like it's okay for an employee to even say that. Like,
but
that's
there's
an
a reason
okay
why,
thing.
God wove that into the fabric of everything. It was like in the commandments, like on the seventh day rest, and we don't. Especially people who are driven and want to do a lot and do it. Like I have a hard time doing that. Like I don't even on the weekends. My resting is doing projects or something.
Right.
But God was like, you need to rest. You got to slow down.
Yeah.
Like especially like I can relate to that. I'm learning that myself in a lot of ways.
I also want, we teach our kids to be hard workers, and it's a good thing to be a hard worker. But I feel like we also have to teach our kids how to, rest and to try to, is there balance? I mean, just try to do the best that you can in the time that you're in. And for me, I just knew, we've had these really hard things happen, and I haven't taken the time to deal with those things. And now it's sort of piled up, and it's coming out in me physically, and I just need to stop.
Did you stop filming and production and all that stuff?
Well, luckily we weren't full-time filming then. I would have been in real trouble.
Yeah.
And so I feel so much better and more whole. And, it's funny. People, I'm typically known as a very happy person, like you said, very upbeat. And people think that when you are like that, it's because nothing bad has ever happened to you.
Anybody that's listening to this should know different now. Yeah.
Well, but like there's some real, and everyone experiences these things, but, there's been some real sadness and hardship in my life. And I feel like, by God's grace, I've been filled with joy. Like those cracks and scars and crevices have been filled with joy. And so that's where that comes from, is from the times where, I didn't know if I was going to make it, or I didn't know how I was going to get through certain things, or, terrible, hard circumstances, that thankfully I've been filled with happiness, and that's what comes out. So yeah, it's definitely not that you ever, when you see a happy person, those are typically the people that have a heck of a story.
And you fought for some of that happiness. Like that's a choice too. Like you.
Oh, definitely. Well,
yeah, even at the hospital. I mean, that's you have to fight. I mean, you can choose to do this, or you can choose to live, and you're choosing to live, and yeah, that's special.
Thank you for sharing all that. That's. Man, again,
lots of vulnerability. And out of all the podcasts, I feel like that to me is such for people that own their own business, for people that are entrepreneurs, that people that are trying to take that next step, you're inevitably going to run into a moment where this is too much, and you need help, you need community, you need to take a step back, you need to take a step to rest, and you need people around you that can, say, hey, it's okay. Like, I know it's not going well right now. This is a horrible thing. It's okay to not be okay. And that vulnerability is okay. And it's a place that like you need to have. And so I think this is like one of the best lessons.
That's a really good lesson.
Well, and I think too, when I look back at my life and the times where I've taken a step back, that's when there's been an awesome turn of events. I mean, every time, when I thought that I was going to lose everything, all of my, everything I'd built up in the design world because I wasn't writing anymore.
Yeah.
And then of course I started working for other brands and started taking on clients. And then of course that led to, television, the production company finding me. And so it's always so hard and so scary. Yeah. But, thankfully it's really been great. And I think after coming through a year like I've come through, you come through something like that, and these changes and times where you've stopped with such you have so much more to give, if someone came to me now and said, "Hey, Grace, I'm really struggling with A, B, and C," I can identify so much more with those things now because of what I've been through. So,
That's awesome.
there's beauty at the end.
Yeah.
So take us. We left off at the vintage furniture store, or business, and you were styling for these magazines and big companies, and so then you started working for clients, taking on clients.
Yeah, started taking on clients.
And then that blew up as well. Like, I feel like everything you're doing here is like turning to gold a little bit.
Well, and when you're first starting out, like I remember I had too many clients at one point, and then I was just scrambling around, and then you can't do your best for everybody then either, right? So, figuring, so much of it is just, I'm constantly figuring things out.
Yeah.
And it's always just sort of this circular motion of, getting this working and this needs tweaking. And it's the same thing with kids, right? Like when you have a bunch of kids, or when you have kids in general, there's always one going through something. And then you kind of, you parent through that, and it's like, oh, we're through that. Yes. And then it's like, oh, wait, now this one needs this. So everything's a circle. And as I go on, I've just come to embrace the circle more and more. Because, you make these changes thinking, oh, I'm going to get to a point where it's level. And then I find that my life really isn't ever very level. It's
never happens.
I'm always at some point of the circle. So, I'm doing these things and working for clients and sort of figuring that out, and, working on our own house. We worked on our old house for about 8-9 years. We would save up money and do one project at a time.
Yeah.
And we lived in it the whole time.
Yeah.
We had 9 months without a kitchen.
And so are you
9 months without a kitchen, living in it.
Oh my gosh.
That's what I've done. I've lived in a couple remodels, and it's miserable. Melissa was like, "We're never ever doing."
We washed dishes in the bathtub.
Oh gosh.
Great.
which prepared you for
Yes.
because you are currently living in an Airstream.
Are we going to Airstream?
Can we? I mean, let's talk about that.
Okay, let's go to Airstream.
We still haven't
right
gotten
now.
to the story to like.
We're about to get to production company, but
Production.
pause for
Because you're
living in Airstream
with
right now.
6 of y'all in your backyard of your house, kind of in the woods.
Yeah.
Because you're in the process of building.
I didn't believe when we talked about before the show. I didn't believe that.
No one ever believes it. They think that we just say that and we really live somewhere else for
That's
some
like,
reason.
It's
Like,
for
no,
the
we
show
really
or
do.
something.
Yeah,
It's
I was like,
no.
maybe this is a publicity show thing. Why on earth are y'all all living in Airstream?
Well,
I think it's awesome.
we never thought we would sell our old house, but there was a lovely gentleman who owned this property that we bought who had reached out to me and said, "I've already moved. Are you interested?" And so, it went from there, and we bought the property, and then we sold our house very quickly. It was wild.
Because it looked awesome.
And it's done, and it's great. It's a great house. It's an amazing house.
Well, you renovated for 9 years. It better be.
It's all done. But a lovely family bought that. And so then we started, looking around like, whoa, we got to leave this house. What are we going to do? We have 200-pound dogs. We've got a big family. And
You could rent something.
we could, but at the
You
time,
could rent a house.
rentals are pretty expensive.
Yes. Yes.
Rentals are pretty expensive. And then, what's the ROI on that really, right? So
Yeah, zero.
So our property goes down into the woods, and the sweet man we bought the property from had a 1969 untouched Airstream
Just
down there.
chilling there.
Just chilling. And we thought he was going to take it, but he was like, "Oh no, y'all can have that." So I had always thought, "Oh, that'll be a fun project later on." But then I was just thinking about it, and I thought, when else are we going to get an opportunity to live in an Airstream? So I pitched it to my husband, who promptly told me that he works really hard to not live in a van by the river.
Yes. Chris Farley, shout out.
But I had all these reasons why I thought it could be great for our family. And I just really, at that time, after coming out of filming, because when we finished filming season 2, we were supposed to start filming again just a couple of short months later for season 3, and I was wiped. I mean, I was real tired, and so I just was really craving some simplicity, and it seemed like a really interesting story and adventure.
And you all fit in there.
We all fit.
Everyone
So
has a bed.
Everyone has a bed. We took it out of the woods. We had it renovated by an awesome company called Trailer Trashin'.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
and they're in College Station. And so we took it down there and renovated it, brought it back, and we're living in it.
And you all like shower in it.
Yes. I mean, I can touch both walls of our bathroom.
That is
Pretty much.
incredible.
But
and,
yeah,
and
we
you're
really
going
love
to
it.
you were telling a story earlier about going to the laundromat 'cause you have to do all your clothes.
Right. So the two things I don't love about it are that you have to clean your excrement and the laundromat.
Oh, the
But-
gray water. You got to empty the tank.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I don't love that part. But it's doable. It's not a big deal.
Do you have to take that somewhere?
No.
You
There's
have to just-
hookups down
Okay,
there.
hookups down there. Okay, there you go.
It's not terrible.
Well, shoot, this
and then the
sounds
laundromat.
great.
But now I have, when you hang out at the laundromat every Sunday, I have laundromat friends.
And but I think this is a peek behind the curtain. You have your own TV show that millions and millions of people watch. You're in like People magazine and all that, and you are living
In a van.
in a van down by the river, going to the laundromat every
Right.
Sunday. That's real life.
It's real life. And, I'm a real person.
That's so awesome.
So yeah, we love it.
Slightly crazy,
It is slightly crazy.
but awesome. I don't know that I would do that, but I respect it.
Well, I'll tell you, once my older brother told me that he was like, there's no way you can do it.
Oh,
He
the
was
challenge.
pretty much on.
The challenge.
Yeah.
And so, like, whenever you go to the laundromat, you said your show. We were joking around. Like, have you ever been in a restaurant or something or a bar where like your show's playing and you're like, yeah, actually at the laundromat. And
Yeah.
we were talking about the laundromat. I'm like, so now, do you're sitting there and you're like, and these people are watching your show on TV and they're like, what are you doing here?
Well, one of my friends there, Betty,
One of your friends
Betty?
there.
had said to me one time, she said, you look just like this girl that I watch on TV. And
When
I
I'm
didn't say
sitting
anything. I
at
was
the
like, oh, really? And so then when it was on, some people know that are in there.
Yeah.
But, when it comes on,
Did you tell her?
Well, she saw.
Oh, okay.
It came on.
And
You're
now you're like the local laundromat
Yeah.
celebrity.
And one of the ladies was like, why are you here?
Yeah, that's exactly what I would be asking. I'd be like, HGTV's hurting for some money.
Yeah.
Because you're not getting paid anything.
It's
to go
really
to-
not that bad.
Yeah.
But I do laundry, and I think it's good for kids to know how to use a laundromat.
All right. I do like
I
it.
agree with that.
And to live in the woods.
Yes.
Yes. So they're learning all sorts of
the
adventure.
year of rest and RV
Woods.
life in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. It's a big 2021.
Simplicity.
Simplicity.
We're not calling it chaos. We're calling it
Right.
simplicity and rest. I like that.
And it's real cozy down there.
Oh, yes, got to be.
Good. Okay, so you're doing all this design, and I will say, as you're doing design and you have the blog and all this stuff, Jimmy and I had started 6th Avenue Homes, and we're flipping all these houses, and we're renovating and designing stuff, and he and I are not designers by any means. We like crazy. We have a crazy style, and we're doing like fun stuff.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing we're in that world. We're in this
Yep.
like house world and design world, and we care about it. But I remember seeing your stuff, and I'm like, I'm obsessed with it. I remember
Oh,
thinking it
thank
was
you.
so,
That's so nice.
cool. And we have employed and used lots and lots of interior designers over the years.
And one of our hiring requirements was like, hey, look at Grace's
We were always like,
Instagram.
Really?
Can we
and
do
I need
stuff
you
like
to
this?
just be like that.
That's such a compliment. Thank
So
you.
sorry, we tried to copy you,
Yeah.
sort of.
Hey,
Is that
that's
bad?
a sincere form of flattery.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad you took it that
But we
way.
all like. I think part of the reason it was so successful because it was cool, and it was in a world where like everything is white and black. These
Looks the
days.
same.
Yeah, but you do all this like crazy, like push the envelope, and it's bold and fun and funky and strange sometimes. But we loved it. I just remember I was like, can I please find someone who can do that? And we couldn't. We have great design. We have great. Yeah. But it was like a fraction of. We were like on the B team.
Yeah,
Of
definitely.
what we were.
Yeah.
We were doing.
I agree. So
but it was really cool.
Thank you. That's so nice to hear.
So whenever you're doing that, so I feel like from a notoriety standpoint, like if you were in Fort Worth and you were in construction design, then you probably knew who you were. But other than that, did you feel like you were like some famous designer at the time, or were you?
No.
You feel like you had made it?
No, I will never feel like I've made it.
You just,
Never?
No.
You don't feel like you've made it right now?
No, definitely not. No. Mm-mm.
Well, that's silly. Yeah, no, that's not
Because
weird.
you want to do more, or because you... I mean, you
I don't know.
You
I
have your own
just feel
TV
like-
show.
Yeah. There's always, I don't know, there's always new dreams to have and new roads to explore. I don't know. To me, I just am sort of going along my life.
Do you feel proud of it though?
Yes, I mean, I do. I think that I feel proud. It's hard to say it. I feel proud. I feel really grateful
Okay, yeah.
that I get to do this and that this journey has led me here. I mean, who would have ever imagined that this would even occur?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, TV producer calls you.
Right.
At
So,
some
okay.
point.
So, my production company is a production company called High Noon.
And they do Chip and Joanna. and
They
all.
did Chip and Joanna, yes. In fact, they were still filming Fixer Upper when I signed on. But a great gal by the name of Reese Van Allen, who is a Fort Worth native, oddly enough, had found me. She was just on her computer and had found me and had sent it to the head of development at High Noon, which is a gal named Rachel Osborne. And so Rachel called me and she actually emailed me. And I thought that it was a joke at first. You know, when you grow up with a bunch of brothers, they've done all sorts of things to me.
Yeah.
And I had been reached out to by production companies before, but it had never seemed like anything I would want to do really. Like one of them was this production company that was doing a show about designers. And so and at first it sounded really interesting, but then I got on a Skype with them and they said, who do you really hate in the design world? And I thought, nope, this is not for me. Bye. But, High Noon, I knew who High Noon was. I don't even remember now, but it was just such a big deal. They were such a well-known production company that I just thought, no, there's no way. Anyway, it was totally real. So I did a Skype with Rachel. And she said, well, it'll be a couple months before we know anything. And so I just thought, oh, nothing will probably ever happen, And then 2 days later, I was taking the kids to school and she called and she said, well, we had a gut feeling. So I edited it, sent it in.
So they recorded the Skype.
Yes. And then they splice it and then they send it to the network and then the network loved it. And so she said, we're filming Fixer Upper on Friday and Saturday. Can you film on Sunday? In Fort Worth. And so I said, sure. So we filmed a little tape and then pitched that to the network.
Which is called a sizzle.
Sizzle.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
And so the sizzle got bought, I guess, and they picked up the initial, what was supposed to be the pilot episode. And so we filmed the episode.
And was it the same concept it is now?
Same concept,
Okay.
yeah. And then so I thought that we were waiting to hear, because at the time you typically film a pilot and then the pilot airs and then they see how it does and then they tell you if it goes forward. And so I got on a Skype or thinking that they were going to tell me when the pilot was going to air. And instead they told me that it was going straight to series, and that was just going to be one of the episodes in the series.
So
it was like unheard of. It never happened.
So they're like, game on. We're doing a whole.
We're doing
that doesn't happen.
No. And now it happens more because TV's changed so much. But we were still the first.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah. So it was wild. Like
Were
the
you
production
freaking
company
out?
was blown away. Everyone was blown away. And so then it was just really fast. I mean, we were going.
So you are literally sitting at your house doing design for customers. You get a call, and literally within 2-3 months, you're filming an entire series.
Yes.
And that is wild.
It was wild and so exciting. I mean,
Yeah.
we were just really excited. What a cool, adventure. And
Did you have to
Opportunity
stop any of your customer jobs, or did you have to
go find
what
more?
What had to happen to pull that off? Even
well, I think that I had wrapped up everyone by the time we started filming for the most part. And I just I got them far enough along that I could just be, to where you're like pillows and curtains and stuff. You can just say, okay, hold on, wait a second. I got to do this. And then the network finds the people. Like, I don't pick the people on the show. The network does all, or the production company.
Yeah.
And then the network approves it or doesn't approve it.
And had you ever been on TV? And you had any TV experience before that?
No, I'd never been on TV.
Like, not even like Good Morning Texas or
No.
like. So were you scared? Were you like, I could do, like, what was going through your head?
Well, it's funny. The first time that I filmed, they came to Fort Worth. We filmed at my friend Kelly Kay's house, and I didn't know how this was supposed to work. And keep in mind that we didn't have a television, so I had never watched. I had never watched Fixer Upper. Like, they kept referencing Fixer Upper, and I just at the time had never seen it. So
You had never seen it.
no,
Grace, that is incredible.
This is amazing.
So, it's funny because HGTV was a really big part of my life in college. And even when I had my accident in the hospital, my roommates would record on VHS.
Yeah, that's right.
The shows that I really loved on HGTV, and I would watch them at the hospital. So they would bring them to me, and that when I was doing my therapy and things, that's what I would have them put me on to like help me get through it, which is so wild now. But I just wasn't super familiar with how it went. So I remember I had a notebook, and my favorite film guy, videographer, Andy, love him. He was there at my very first shoot, and I had brought a notebook that I had seriously just bought the day before. And I'm sure I just seemed very stiff.
Yeah.
And so he stopped filming. He was like, do you normally carry a notebook? Because you seem like someone that would talk with their hands. And I was like, no, I don't. And so he's like, let's lose the notebook. And then it was great. So for about
The hands are now free.
yeah, and now I can do all my stuff. But for about the first 45 minutes, I was probably pretty terrible. Tell me what we need to do. It's just bad. But yeah, so then, that always obviously worked itself out. And I luckily it felt very natural talking on camera. And I just felt like I just think about it as like talking to my friends at home that really like home and design and all those things that I like
That's
to talk
pretty
about.
incredible to just jump into that and
feel like-
to be good at it.
Yeah, because it's one thing to design and it's a completely different thing to film.
Oh yeah, yeah. And just to have personality and charisma, like that's a hard thing. Like even like when we film a lot. Like I have a marketing company, so we do a lot of marketing stuff, and I film business owners and entrepreneurs, and they're like, people are great conversationalists, and I get them in front of the camera, and they're just like
They freeze.
up and get weird, or
But do you feel like it was like this like naivety that like helped with that, because you haven't watched any shows, it just happens all of a sudden, so you're on camera and you're like, well, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do or what I'm supposed to act like, so I'm just going for it.
And it just sort of flowed,
and people loved it,
and
so they bought a whole season.
Yeah, after our third episode aired, we got a season 2.
Oh my God.
So it
That's
was
so crazy.
real fast.
Did you believe people were going to like that? Like the show? Whenever you're filming, you're like, I think people are going to like this.
Well, at
Did you
that
believe
point,
that?
I had gotten more well-versed in sort of what was out there at that point.
Okay.
Because
And
again,
I was-
the researcher in you kicked in. So-
Right. I was a little worried because, our show is so different in that every episode is so different and the look is really different. I mean, there's a thread that ties them all together, but, a lot of these shows, you watch them and you know exactly what it's going to look like at the end. It's still fun to watch, but But this one was sort of more of a surprise. And I was just so different from what they normally had. So I think...
In what way? Can you elaborate on that?
Just that, just my look was so different, and it had color and pattern, or most of them do, and they liked that everything that I did was kind of outside of the box, but they also were like, oh, we don't know how people will respond.
Did they get the personal side of it? Like, did they get that? Like, where you're like, I want it to be personal to these people? Because
Yes.
I feel like that comes across in the show as well.
Right.
And, you know, honestly, that thread throughout your whole life, too. I mean, I would say. Did they feel like the network got that?
Yeah, I really do. And it was, you know, there's some lovely people who have really, you know, been a great cheerleader of me and what I do and what I offer. So that's been really nice.
Do you feel like you are like you're now in your element? Not saying you weren't in your element before, but do you feel like, man, I was made to do this? Like this is like did something awaken like or affirm?
I mean, just shooting, I just thought, oh, I feel like I'm naturally good at this part of it. You know, you sort of settle down into it. Like I remember at first, Reese, our producer, who is wonderful, would say sometimes when before, now I'm more trained, but before I would be really excited about something and I would get really high pitched. And so she'd be like, Grace, you know, like tone it down. So now I've just sort of learned to relax and in my excitement.
Yeah.
A little more with my voice at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like I'm exactly where I should be, but I also know that this is not forever too. You know, I'm not going to be on TV forever. And which as much as I love doing it, I feel like I'm going to be rolling along the same as I was before. So I know that it's not forever and it's a really neat time of my life and a cool story. And it's been neat for the kids too. You know, there's all sorts of...
Did the kids understand it? Do they think it's cool?
You know, it's so funny because when we first found out that we were going to series and Kent and I are really praying through, you know, just thinking like, what is it like for kids to be on television? Just trying to put your head in like a child's brain. Like, what would this be like if our parent, you know, if your parent was on TV? Yeah. And so we really prayed through like what to say and all these things. So we sit the kids down and we're like, hey, you know, this is happening. And we're just excited to get to love on people and, you know, have all kinds of different people in our lives and expand our world a little bit. And, you know, we've really thoughtfully prepared this. And, you know, there's just nothing like kids to just sort of bring you back down to earth because their exact response was, cool. Can we go outside now?
Yeah. Like, this is a boring conversation. What are we having for dinner? Yeah.
Like, when are you going to tell me something important? So it was so funny. And they've always been with me on projects since they were, you know, in the womb or in the quadruple stroller. So to them, it was not that big of a change, except there's just cameras there now. And our crew, all of them, have been so lovely. I mean, it's not easy for 4 kids to be running around these projects all the time, but they will, you know, carry them on their shoulders and, you know, let them use the camera. And, you know, the kids make all kinds of stuff out of the boxes and the wood shavings and all sorts of things. So, and, you know, there was one summer that I was feeling kind of bad because I had been filming the whole summer and it just wasn't a normal summer with like, okay, let's go to the pool today or let's do this. They had been with me on set so much and I was feeling kind of bad, like kind of, you know, guilty, you know, when you work and you're a mom and just those, or when you work and you're any parent, just those feelings that you have at times. And so I was feeling kind of down about it. And I got in the car and Ellis, my oldest, said, Mom, I was just thinking, I know that things don't go right sometimes. And you don't yell at anyone and you don't yell at us. And I like broke down in my car because I just thought, oh my gosh, what a great thing for me to realize is that even when I'm, you know, we're as parents, we're going through these things, our kids are watching, you know, and
for them getting to see the fact that you bring them on set and they get to see you in your real life and your work life with your team, like that's cool. That's a really big, neat opportunity for them.
Well, and not to say that I've never yelled. I've definitely had to apologize to my children for yelling at times. But, you know, it just meant so much to me that I thought, oh, he's seeing like how the real world works. And like there's problems, you know. On television, it might be like you might see a oops or an accident. But, you know, in this life, there are hard things that we have to deal with no matter what job that we have. And the kids see that.
And he's seeing your attitude in that, and and he's appreciating it too, that's really neat.
Yeah, it was a neat, helpful moment.
Yeah, that's right.
Can you give us a little peek behind the scenes? Because I'm a little curious, just from a construction standpoint, the before and the after, and accomplishing it all in this tight filming. How does that work?
Oh,
how do you pull stuff off? And on the show, it looks like it happens in 2 weeks later. It's
oh my gosh.
because sometimes construction takes your house took 8 years.
Yeah.
How can you can you elaborate on that? How does it work? What happens when it goes wrong and you run into an issue?
Yeah. Well, there are so many companies in Fort Worth. We are a Fort Worth based show.
Yeah.
And man, there are so many people that make miracles happen. I mean, we had one episode where it's an episode with this beautiful barrel ceiling bathroom, and the whole thing's tiled, and we had to do this
I love that project.
Oh, thank you. We had to do this custom mirror, right, to meet the curve of the ceiling. And so we had this mirror installed, and the electrician had come to put the sconces in, because the sconces were on the mirror, and he cracked it.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is very late. And so the mirror company made the mistake of giving us their cell phone numbers. And so we had the reveal the next day. The reveal was happening where the people come home the next day. So we call and we're like, I'm nearly in tears. And so they came, took the mirror, put it back in at 5 a.m. We had it the sconces reinstalled. It's never made. This was never filmed or on television.
That's right.
But it's so many people, and I always think that you see me on TV or you see some other people. There are so many people that make these things happen, and it's the effort of so many. And even with television, the editors and the editing bays and the people that piece the story together, all these things take so much work and energy and thoughtfulness, and I feel so grateful for those people too. But it is around the clock work a lot of the time.
And are you steering that ship? Are you the one?
Yeah, I mean, I do all the design. And so, a lot of times after I'd put my kids down, I would go to construction projects, our sites, and I would write notes on the wall for the people the next day. And this is a mistake that I see that needs to get fixed, or.
Yeah. So because whenever people watch shows, they're like, there's no way they did that construction in 60 days, But in reality, and because we have some friends that did actually an episode with you, right?
Really?
And so the
cool.
Finleys. And so
I love the Finleys.
I was like, I'm looking at it from a construction standpoint, and I'm like, oh man, they're like, how long would this take? You're just like, oh, this is like a 6-month project for sure.
For sure. Most of them are.
They're like 6-7 month project. And they're like, no, they did it in 60 days. Literally. And I'm like, there's no way. And they're like, no, that's what they did, because everything had already been scheduled. I mean, you have all these moving parts where you're trying to film this. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, the reveal was here, so they just had to get it done. And I'm like, how in the world? So that gave me me just personally a glimpse into behind the scenes of, it's not about in the real world, it doesn't get done that fast but for a show, it gets done that fast.
It gets done that fast.
And it's not like it's filmed over the course of 6 months like it should take.
Right.
It's no, it's filmed.
That would be so much better.
I know, right?
Less stressful.
But I don't think people understand the amount of hours. They're like, no, they were there, I think 5 days straight, all night. No one went to, no one went home. It's they were just there.
What's funny is on the Finley's project, actually, that I had the end of their project, I think, was my least amount of sleep in all of filming. I stayed up 3 straight days at the end of their project to get it done.
That's insane.
Styling it and moving things in. And
3 straight days?
Yeah, when I did their reveal, I had been up for 3 days.
So it ain't glamorous. I mean, it's
No.
you're working really hard.
Oh, man,
you're not just showing up and be like, hey.
No.
Yeah, I feel like that was the point where I was just like, oh my gosh, this would be miserable to have a TV show. In my head.
It's challenging. And honestly, I need to do a better job of balancing it in the future. It's part of my,
yeah. Well,
you know.
It's a new
New dawn, new day.
Yeah, new dawn, new day.
The tea
New
grace.
I
mantra.
think there's a way to do it. Well, we're working on ways to do it where I sleep more, and everybody sleeps more. Really,
Have you had to relinquish some control, like to delegate and like? No.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to. It's when you guys have a small business, you have a small business for so many years, and it's your baby, and you grow it, and you know every part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you, being pushed to the end of your rope makes that hand much easier. I mean, loosen up much more easily.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I've sort of been forced into that because now, I have a home decor line. I've got obligations for the network. I have, there's a lot of things that I have to think about. And so it's sort of forced me to let go of some things. And I'm going to have to continue to let go of things. But, as long as I feel confident in that, the people that I'm working with know that I'm being super thoughtful of them and their end product and their money and all of those things, that's always my goal. And I think with the show, the people, the construction guys that worked on that show, if trim wasn't right, I mean, they would stay there all night to get it right. They really, we worked so hard to make sure that everyone was happy and taken care of. And that was really, really important.
Yeah, it was out of control, and I don't think people also understand that the networks, and the production company, they might find you a client, right? But guess what? You got to do all the work now.
Yeah.
And they don't come in and bring in extra help and I think that's whenever I watch TV and I'm like, oh, the TV companies, the rich companies are going to just bring in a bunch of people to help. And that's not how it goes. They're
Doesn't
like,
work like that.
hey, we're filming this.
Yeah.
I need you to work harder and faster to hit these deadlines.
Well, I mean, your crew, there were plenty of times where our camera guy or gal or whoever would put down their camera when they could to lend a hand if we needed it. I mean, these people are gold.
Sure.
Our showrunner would bring us food, Nicole, and make sure we were taken care of and help out where she could. So, but no, it's not like all these magic little people show up and help you.
Or they pay you a
carry
bunch
it
of
out.
money extra to finish a project. It's
What people don't realize also is that television actually pays terrible money.
Yes. I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
I don't know if we could talk about that.
Well, I mean, it's, you don't make money really from doing television. I think it would kind of shock people to realize what you get paid. In fact, when I first sent my brother's an attorney, two of them are, but when I first sent him my contract, he thought that I was joking. He thought I had messed with it.
Yeah, it's not enough to live off of.
No.
Not even close.
No.
Especially your first season. I mean, it's
No
not
way.
even not even minimum wage.
No.
And I don't think people realize that. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
you've made it. You must be rich. No, that has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, someone else that has a show is telling me that they calculated out how much they make an hour, and it was 6 cents or something.
Yes. Yeah, you think you're finally I got a series.
Yeah.
Great. I can maybe pay my grocery bill. Maybe.
But
Right.
it opens up all these doors.
It opens up
Yeah.
doors
Opens up all these
for
doors.
sure, and that's a really cool thing,
It gives you a platform.
It gives you a platform.
But you're not. But it's not like you're magically rich.
No, you're
now.
not rich when you make it onto television. And I think a lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I had no idea. And I mean, so, we kind of dabbled in it for a little bit and then hearing, different people's stories and you're like, oh my gosh, TV's not worth it. But obviously the notoriety, the publicity and those types of things, the authority that it gives you, obviously it gives you an opportunity to make money,
Right.
but you got to go out and do it, you
Yeah.
know? And that's what people, I don't think, realize.
So what's the biggest way you've monetized it? Is it? I'm assuming you're not. Do you still take on clients? Do you still have
I
two
do.
people?
So, when we got shut down for COVID, I could take on more clients. So yeah, I do that.
And you have the line.
The line,
Can
which
you?
is super fun.
How does that? Can you talk about that? Can we talk about
Yeah,
that?
of course.
How does that even? You're designing right now. You're designing. You have Christmas. You have your own line of Christmas ornaments and Christmas stuff. And
Yep.
how does that even work?
Well, it's one of my favorite parts of my whole job. The people who run At Home are some of the most wonderful people I've ever come into contact
And
with.
did they approach you?
Yes.
They reached out and were
Yeah.
like, we want you to be like the new face of
Right.
our
Right.
giant mega corporation all over the entire U.S.
Right. Yeah. And it's been so fun and wonderful. And, I present my ideas and
Did you just draw them in a notebook?
I'll send
or-
pictures. I'll say like, oh, I want to do this, but tweak it this way. Or here's this thing that I came up with, thought about. Here you go.
Are you going to factories and stuff? Or are they like,
I've never gone to a factory because, when I came out, it was COVID pretty
Okay.
much. I'd love to do that someday.
so you're just coming up with ideas. You're like, I got this idea for a blanket or a
Right.
Christmas ornament. Did you pick out the colors and stuff? Or
Yeah. And then I'm constantly sending those things over. And then they, come up with the product line, and then we get samples, and then I tweak those. Sometimes what I want to do to the samples is too expensive and they can't do it. So,
Yeah.
but they're so great about like working it out. And then
that sounds like a ton of fun.
it's really great. I mean,
Like,
I love it.
yeah.
Product design is one of my favorite elements of this whole gig. I love it.
Which you learned to do that. There wasn't like you had done that before. You had
Right. No.
And that's what the TV is obviously presented like as an opportunity.
Yeah.
That's
So,
such
and
a
that's,
cool thing.
and also it's just a neat, what a cool thing in your life. And
You can go in a store and it's like your stuff.
yeah,
That's pretty
real
cool.
weird. Yeah. And
Do
cool.
your kids ever help you design stuff? Like,
Well,
or
it's funny that you bring that up. There's little things in all of my collections that connect to my life. And
Yeah.
like my outdoor set last year was the Fairmount.
oh, nice.
I don't
That's
know
cool.
if anyone ever even noticed, but it's totally the Fairmount. Like my kids always have a special little ornament that represents them. There was a family on the show that is beloved to us, and they lost their little girl Joy a couple of years ago, and she was on the show. So there's always some Joy items in Christmas in honor of her, little things. But there's never been. My youngest daughter, Karis, really loves cats.
Okay.
And she has been so upset because there's never been a Christmas cat. Like, why are there no Christmas cat ornaments?
That's a great point.
And so
Karis. yeah.
I had told At Home, again, who are just the loveliest people and the most wonderful company. What a cool company. It's based in Dallas.
Oh,
that's
Wild. Anyway, so I had said, is there any way to put cat? Like, I don't really have a cat, anything else.
We need a Christmas cat.
We need a Christmas cat.
Yeah.
And so I just went and looked at 2022 Christmas because you work, you work.
Oh,
like a
you're
year and a half
already
ahead.
doing 2020.
Oh, yeah.
That's wild.
And so I just went and looked at that.
So I'm assuming it's going well because they're
going well.
Let's do next year too.
Yeah, we're rolling for
And there's
a few
so
years.
we can expect a Christmas cat.
Christmas cat.
all right.
2022.
You need to like
excited
have a
about that.
children's book to go with it and like.
Well, we're working on that.
You are?
Yeah.
You working on a book?
Yeah.
A Christmas cat book?
No.
Okay.
Oh, man. That would have been.
Wait,
No.
tell us about the book.
Are you allowed to?
No, I can't really say much yet. But yeah, that's
A children's
those
book.
things are in the works.
That makes
What
so much
else?
sense.
What else are you working on or doing?
Well, we're about to start a new season. So that's exciting.
And you can't
I can't
disclose.
elaborate.
And is it the same? Like, is it the same?
It's going to be a little bit different, and it's
Okay.
going to be an hour every week.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so you're done filming that?
No.
Like, okay.
You're about to film
You're
that.
about to start filming.
We've done some filming,
Okay.
but we haven't been full time
Okay.
because of the crazy world that we live
So you're
in.
about to ramp up into
About to ramp up.
busy season again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's about to get a little more crazy.
With your new simplistic
Yes. With
pauses.
my new teacup.
Yeah, I like it. I love it.
So season 3.
Season 3.
We got a secret book, The Christmas Cat.
Yeah, secret book / Christmas cat book
I'm
coming.
just gonna speak that.
Yeah, that's coming.
Christmas
I don't
cat.
know
I'm
if
looking.
that's in the repertoire, but I'll see what I can.
Karis is going to help write that one.
Yeah,
She would.
Yeah.
And anything else fun? Or I mean, that's a lot already in and of itself.
Yeah, I think that might be all
That's a lot.
right now.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh,
Like, do you have goals now? I know you said you intentionally didn't have goals
I still don't really do goals.
You don't do goals. Okay.
I love it. I know
kinda
that's
anti-goals.
That's the opposite of every business book.
I'm so
you know what? I love that.
Yeah.
I seriously love that
I'm
because
so into goals and stuff.
You do have goals, like but they're just not goals that might be the standard goals. Like you probably do if you really thought about it, and you're like, because I want to spend this much time with my family, I want to do this with my family. They're not going to might be business goals, but you have them probably.
Do you have a vision of like where you want to be on some level, like, or what you want to be doing, or I haven't checked this off my bucket list yet?
I mean, I would love to have a cooking show eventually.
Oh, cool.
I love cooking, and my times on the Food Network, I've just loved it. So I'd love to speak that into existence.
All right.
I mean, I would love to just keep doing products and just expand my product line, different categories. I would even love to do like a clothing line eventually. I have all sorts of little dreams like that.
Yeah.
But I also just feel like if you're working your hardest and being smart about what you're doing and thoughtful, that, just kind of see what comes and what happens. I'm definitely strategic. Like I don't just wait for things to happen.
You've chased them down.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be thoughtful about what you're doing and your path and everything. But I guess I just don't want to be. I feel like if I'm putting out my best and doing my best work, I don't want to be disappointed if I don't reach a goal. So goals seem like a good way for me to be sad and not like take joy in what has happened and what is happening.
Yeah. I think, I mean, these things didn't just come upon you, right? Like it's all hard work that has led to opportunities. And then whenever you saw an opportunity that was worth it and that you could do it at the time that didn't sacrifice something else in your life or family in your life, you chase it down. And you don't just chase it. You like go and like grab it and crush it. And I'm going to research it, make my own make my own course to study something, right? Like, so I definitely think there's a lot more strategy and like hard work than you're letting on, or like your humility, like humble attitudes letting on. But it comes through for sure.
Did you ever have any like imposter syndrome at any point?
Oh yeah, because I'm not, I don't have a design degree.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, for years I wouldn't even say that I was a designer. I just said I liked home stuff.
I like home stuff.
I just kind of do this thing.
Yeah,
I'll be on
because
TV,
I don't know,
maybe not.
education has always been so important to me, and I just didn't feel like I could say that. But now I feel way more comfortable. But yes, of course. I mean, and even not having a background in TV or in any of these things that I do now, there's definitely been some imposter syndrome for sure. But
do you feel like now that you're like, I've got this?
I always see ways that I can improve.
Okay.
I'll always be thinking about ways that I can be better, and do things better. But yeah, I definitely think that there are elements of this that I'm naturally good at. I like talking to people a lot.
Okay.
And I like diving into them, and design is just a way for me to do that.
Okay, I have some quick questions that I want to know, like TV questions, like kind of rapid questions.
Okay, let's go into the rapid land.
Okay.
And then
What is like funniest or biggest mistake that you've made on camera so far? Like if you like ripped a big fart one time or something like that, or like like said something you weren't supposed to, like funny moment on camera that you regret.
Oh, that's funny.
Like,
not really a funny moment. There were 2 times that I've been filming, and it's just when I've been really tired. I've been talking and then just like randomly started crying.
Okay.
To where we had to stop filming for the day.
So that's not like a blooper reel. That's like
No.
overworked. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
like
but
small.
there's other times where like, bugs fly into your mouth. Or,
Oh yeah.
there's all sorts of stuff like that. But there have been a couple times where, and they've been so sweet about it. Like, okay, we'll
Time to take a
And
break.
I'm like, and then we're gonna.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
The funny thing your kids have done, like did they like completely like ruin the scene, like right where you're about to do? I don't know.
Oh,
Like kids are hysterical.
they
Like,
are hysterical. There was one time that one of my children was going to the bathroom in the backyard, and he had positioned himself like,
facing the
yeah,
camera.
because the porta potty at the place was filled up, like,
Yeah.
and he was
Yeah.
like, I'm not doing that. So he went in the backyard, and he didn't realize that he was in the camera view.
Being filmed, taking a pee in the
That is-
backyard.
that's
Love
funny.
it. I like that. That's good.
Do you have a favorite like color, and not like blue or red, but like a favorite like paint color that you're like I've used it a lot, like
Yeah, I really love Benjamin Moore Constellation.
Constellation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What color is that?
It's like this very, very light blue color.
Oh,
And it looks different at different times of the day, and it just always looks good.
Nice. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favorite shade of white?
Chantilly lace.
And who is that? Benjamin Moore.
Yes.
Benjamin Moore
what-
has
what is
great
that?
colors.
They do.
Yeah.
What is that one called?
Chantilly lace.
Chantilly lace.
I feel like
It's
we've
not
used
too
that
white.
before.
It's not too cream.
I don't know these things.
It's real good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Big fan.
I knew you'd have a good answer for that. Do you have a designer? Like, I'm assuming you care a lot about vibe
Yeah.
at restaurants or hotels.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have like a favorite restaurant or hotel or like place y'all go that's just, I love the vibe? Whether that could be locally or that could be just on vacations or traveling. Like, I just love this hotel
Well,
or restaurant or space.
I'm actually working on a restaurant in Houston right now.
That you're designing? That's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I normally don't do a ton of a ton of commercial or a ton of out of town projects just because it's hard for me to leave. But I'm loving it. Like, I would love to do more commercial. I think it's using a story in a different way, where it's not people based. It's more of like vibe based, like that. And I love crafting that story. I think that's so fun and great and interesting. But I guess
what is the restaurant? Can you say what it is?
No. I don't know if I should yet.
Yeah.
But this pops in my head just because we went there recently. But I went to the Proper Hotel in Austin for the first time.
That's super cool.
It's super cool. I love it because it is it has a modern feel, but it has a lot of vintage in it, which I think is just such a cool mix and what I really try to do. And it was just so interesting to see it.
We stayed at the one in San Francisco and loved it.
Yeah.
Super, super vibey.
Yeah, I love it. There's a couple of hotels in New York that I love too. And of course, I'm blanking on the name of them.
That's okay.
It'll come to
Yeah.
me in like 5 minutes.
Favorite restaurant in Fort Worth?
Oh, I love Shinjuku Station. I
Yeah.
mean, we're so lucky where we live. We can walk everywhere.
Yeah.
So we walk a lot to eat. I mean, I love Shinjuku Station a lot.
It's so great.
Well, you could go out in your backyard and maybe like shoot
Yeah,
squirrels or something.
we love
or-
to. We don't shoot squirrels.
Oh yeah.
We are
sorry.
friendly to squirrels.
Sorry. This is you can't get too
We
rustic out
walk
there in
to
the woods.
Ascension almost every weekend.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
that's great.
HG supplies right there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I excuse. I mean, I love Melt,
Yeah.
and if I walk there or run there, I feel like I'm really doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've earned it.
Yeah.
You've earned it a little
Oh
bit.
my gosh, yes.
We love that. We had Carrie on. She was one of our guests on the
she's
podcast.
terrific.
Yeah. If you could give your your younger self any advice, or anyone who's just up and coming in the design world or wants to have done what you do, what advice would you give?
Yeah, work hard and ask questions.
Okay.
I mean, so much of I feel like where I got is because, for example, the first time that I did a Pottery Barn gig, it was a silly thing where they said, hey, we'll send you these costumes for free, which, Pottery Barn costumes like $100. So at the time, I was like, yes, send them my way. And they're like, hey, can
Like
you
Halloween costumes?
Halloween
Okay.
costumes. Pottery Barn said, we'll send you these Halloween costumes. We're not going to pay you. Like, you got paid $0. But can you style this shoot with your kids in these Halloween costumes? And I, did a great job. And so they hired me from there. And then I, expanded it into their other companies.
Wow.
But, if you, and even like with styling shoots for magazines, it's not like someone just called and said, "Hey, Grace, come style this magazine shoot." No, it was that I knew people that were doing that. So whenever they did local things like Better Homes and Gardens, they would come in and do local things. And I would say, "Hey, can I come help? Can I bring coffee? Can I?" And
For
so
free.
I just, yes, for free. For free. And sometimes I would even help and do things and like
just to be around it and
just
learn.
to be around it and learn and see how these things worked. And of course, I never, a lot of those things that you do, you don't get credit for, you don't get paid for those things, but you're just there. And so I would always take everything that came to me and try to go the extra mile. And I really think that's a great way to get noticed and to move ahead. And even like the interns that I've had that I've hired on later are the ones,
the hungriest ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
That were like, show up early or, not want, just do these extra things, be thoughtful about what's happening and how they can help.
That's cool.
That's great advice.
Yeah. And then like ask questions from people that you trust and are doing it. And hopefully you'll get someone that, is willing to talk with you about these things. But, ask people questions and learn all you can.
Selfishly, that's one of the reasons we're doing this podcast. Because I'm like,
See, you guys are already doing
because I get an excuse to sit down and ask people how they got to be successful.
Well, it's never easy, right? I mean,
It's never easy.
There have been plenty of times where I have sat on my front porch and just bawled because things didn't go right or they weren't going right, or I felt like I was messing up in this area or I'd made mistakes and I had to figure out how to fix it. No one is perfect and no one is going to, you're not going to go on any path to any goal that you have and not screw up. So if going in, I'm going to screw up and I just need to figure out how to fix it, then you're going to be okay. Like, don't let it crush you.
That's good.
Get up.
Get up. That's great.
So, last question we always ask is legacy. It's about legacy. It may be too soon to ask, but whenever 20, 30, 40 years even, right? What do you want legacy to look like? Maybe might not know the whole picture yet, right? But for now, like even the last 10 years, what do you want people to say, people to remember, like kids to think of? What does that look like for you?
I would like to think that every person that comes in contact with me could walk away feeling like they were important and that their story mattered. And so now I do this through design. I really dig into people and I want their home to reflect them. I never want a space that I do to walk in and someone say, "Oh, Grace Mitchell did this," right? I love it when people tell me that other people come in and say, "Oh my gosh, this looks just like you."
That's cool.
I love that. And I think for me, it's just so many people move so quickly through life and you don't reflect on who you are and what you've done. And I think if people could fully realize that they are here for a reason and a specific purpose and that what they do and how they interact matters. Like if everyone felt that way, what a huge impact that would make on our world, right? And so I want everyone to come in contact with me to take that away, that they are, that who they are and their being is important and matters. And I think that would be a wonderful legacy to leave. I don't know. I like that much better than Grace made pretty stuff.
Yeah.
But that goes back to the original when Kent handed you the journal and said, write your story, you're right. The idea for a storied style.
Yeah.
That's the idea, right? That
Right.
everybody has a story and you're sharing and you get to create it and shape it. It's cool to hear you talk about that in the context of that's also like how you started and why you started and like the spark that launched this whole thing.
Yeah. I just want people to feel known. And I think for me, it took me a long time to know myself. I was a late bloomer in pretty much like every area.
Yeah.
And I want people to feel like they know they are seen and that they know themselves and that who they are and what they are is impactful. That's so important to me, and it's really at the heart of all that I do in my life.
Well, I think that if anybody actually listens to this whole thing, and they and they actually just get to spend some time with you, that's not just your persona on TV, right? Like that comes across. If they take time to see and know you, I think that they'll see that genuineness, that authenticity that wants people to feel that way. So it's pretty neat.
And I would argue it's probably some of your secret to your success.
I agree.
Is that you have been so intentional with doing that and trying to do that, and that's been your mission. It hasn't just been about pretty stuff; it's been about that.
Right.
And I think God's given you favor and blessed a lot of it because of that spirit and attitude, and people see it and have felt that way, and so they like it. And
Right. Well, it makes it, and Kent my husband has been so key to really developing that in me, and just knowing if I am putting my best out and doing everything with honesty and with the best intentions, then, no matter what the world throws at me, that I can stand and say, I've done all that I can, and so I live by that with intention and also protection. This world is hard and crazy. And, when you're on TV, it opens you up to a lot of things that aren't so awesome. And some of that has been difficult to
like
deal
critics
with.
and haters.
Critics for sure. People that, want to find bad stuff because you're on TV, people that want to accuse you of things that aren't true. You just really, you open yourself up, and even like attention that you don't necessarily want. It's some of that is a real challenge, but there's been so much good to come out of this, and I've never really doubted, even in some hard days, I've never really doubted that I wasn't where I should be, because I see so much fruit from the show and the impact, and how we get to touch people, and how that in turn has changed their lives to an extent.
That's awesome. It definitely has. Well, thank you for joining us and sharing all this, man. You were super vulnerable and honest, and what a cool story.
Well, I never want, it's so easy when you see people who, have done cool things, to not feel, I never want to make anyone feel bad about who they are and where they're at. So I feel like it's important to share when you had success, to share like, hey, I have struggled, and this has not always been easy, and I'm a real person that forgets purple shirt day at school, and and burns stuff sometimes, and screws up. So
You're a real human.
Yeah.
A real human.
That's right. Well, you did a really good job at portraying that, and thank you for sharing and being honest about that. It's really,
this is fun. This is kind of
special.
We also never got into the fact that, I don't know if you probably know this, that Can't Save My Life. Do you know that?
I
do you remember
do
that?
know that Kent saved your life.
Just like
That's right. Yeah,
this was probably like
yeah.
10, 15 years ago.
We're gonna add this on. We're gonna cut this episode, and then we're gonna put this on at the bonus reel.
But yeah, I drove a 4-wheeler into a barbed wire fence going like 50 miles an hour.
I remember.
Kent was there and went into like rock star doctor mode and like picked me up and unwrapped the barbed wire and like put pressure and tied stuff and took me to the hospital. And I like could have and would have and should have died, and he like superheroed.
Yeah.
Saved my life.
I remember him calling me and him being real worried. Like, I hope it'll be okay. But it's funny. Kent is so much of a like stand in the scenes guy, stand in the background guy. And so it's so funny to me that and obviously I'm in front of a camera, but so much of what I do and how I've evolved and changed is because I have a spouse who has loved me and supported me, and and we've walked through this together, and that hasn't always been easy. Like my life and my role has changed so much. And I read this thing the other day that said something like, when you get married, you don't realize that you're going to have to marry that person over and over and over and over again. And that's so true, because, the grace that had tiny little kids is different from the grace that has older kids and a TV show. And, Kent in residency is different than the Kent that went through, he graduated seminary, and, he's such a neat person. And you are not the only life that he's saved. Like there was a guy that had passed out behind Mellis on Vickery. Like Kent had to CPR that guy. There was
he had to CPR him.
Yeah, I don't know, whatever, he works his magic. Like we were on a date one night and came upon this car. Kent loves to drive, like take back roads, and we're on this back road, and we had come upon this lady who had flipped over. Her car was upside down, and she had a baby in the back seat, and she was freaking out because she couldn't get to the baby. And so like Kent goes and gets the baby.
Superhero.
He's just that guy that like swoops in.
Superhero.
But he uses those skills when he needs to.
Well, y'all are a superhero couple. It's I don't get to see you guys a ton, but I'm just huge fans of both of you. Huge fans of what you've done. So proud of you. Super thankful for him.
I'm glad he saved you.
Yeah, me too. I do. Well, this is a pleasure. This was a treat. Can't wait to see season 3, and just excited to see what's next. And look forward to the children's
cat book,
Christmas cat coming out. All right, we're done.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Congratulations, you made it all the way to the end. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Stories with Soul. If you enjoyed the interview and like what you heard, please help us out and share, subscribe, and like anywhere you listen to podcasts. When you share and subscribe, it is insanely helpful and allows us to keep producing new episodes. You can always join us directly in the studio by watching the video version on our website, 6thAveStorytelling.com. Stories with Soul is brought to you by 6th Ave Storytelling, an organic marketing company building standout brands on the foundation of story. You're obsessed with your business, and we want to make the world obsessed with it too. Thanks for listening.